Welcome, everybody, to Dick Storks and Destinies. Today, I'm here with Ken and the Kid, and we're talking about horror movies for our October Scarathon.
October
Whoa.
Scarathon, a four-part series.
All
Get it
the
right, asshole.
wonderful horrors about Chapel's body.
Ooh, touch my body.
I mean, we don't want to scar our fucking listeners.
Oh no, I'm pretty sure that's the whole point of horror. Although in Chapel's case, whore, but
Wait, there's an or at the end of horror? Whore or?
Uh,
oh man.
Like whore or slut?
Well, here we didn't think that it could get any worse.
I mean,
oh, it can always get worse.
That's true. It can always get worse.
It can always get worse.
Listen, okay? If it's going to be whore or slut, I'm picking slut.
Why? You're already
Why
the
don't
whore.
you?
That's
Why?
not
'Cause
true.
you
I
pick-
am a slut because I don't charge a dime for my services, and I'm proud of
That's
that.
because they're not willing to pay for your services.
Oh, that hurts, you piece of shit. That hurt. Fuck you. In particular, Ken, fuck you.
You wish you
well,
You
at
wish I
lea-
would.
At least
could.
I wish you two would just fucking kiss and make up already. Fuck.
Nah.
A little tongue, a little fondling, and you'll be you'll be right as rain.
And Kid is the cameraman.
We're a minute into this, and
Look, I don't
already
give
we're
a fuck
talking
about
about my
that.
sex life.
I have no shame in my game. I will fucking run film all day long.
I appreciate that. I'll make sure you get a good paycheck.
And that, everybody, is how you get scared in October. Oh. So, today's topic, folks, is all about the good old classic horror films. Now, Chapel
Okay,
and I were... Go ahead.
You say classic horror films. Let's get the definition of an actual horror film out.
Okay.
And not run into the bullshit that we're running into as of late of what everyone is classifying as horror.
Okay. So, we're talking like the big four. Chapel and I were actually discussing this a little while ago before stream. We're talking like that B-rated, old-school gore horror. The things of nightmares.
Okay, so classic horror would be, if I got any inkling of an idea here, that would encompass, films like Friday the 13th.
Yep.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yep, that's number 2.
Halloween.
Number 3.
And let's see. I don't know where to go on that one. But if we're talking blood, guts, and gore, then I would have to go into, like Scream and Hellraiser.
Ding, 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 ding.
See?
Chapel, you got all 4.
I'm telling you, we talked about all of those movies.
Yep. So, now, normally, yes, we did agree Scream is on that list. However, Scream came out later than the rest of those 4.
Right. Well, I mean, the Hellraiser, Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street, those would be the original horror films that introduced blood, guts, torment, torture, one singular entity chasing the survivors and victims throughout the entire, I don't know, fucking 60 to 90 minute taping of this film.
Right. Yep. So, like, and then we'll also add on, we also, in the expanded horror, then we got guys like, we got people like Scream, Leatherface, and all of the other cannibalistic, god-awful monstrosities that human nature had to offer. You know, these are the things of classic true horror, not this bull crap that they call horror nowadays, that you just sit there and you're like, dude, this isn't scary.
It's
This
just a
isn't
gore
horror.
fest.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
just a
okay.
gore
So with that, that's the definition of horror, and that's what I view as horror, and that's something that my wife goes, "Well, I thought you liked horror." I said, "I do. I love horror, but I do not like the mindfuck thrillers that they classify as horror." Because
right, because that's
there,
psychological
there's no
thriller. That's a
there,
whole
there's
different
no
fucking genre.
blood, there's no blood and guts, and people just dying left and right, and no one knows who done it. It's like quite literally everyone knows who is doing what, and it's just a complete fucking psychological thriller, more than it is an
Now,
actual get your heart racing. Is the killer lurking behind the fucking door?
Right.
correct. Now, I would say there is one movie set that I will admit um did horror and psychological thriller as a good combination dynamic. As most all our viewers would know it as Saw. The original
So
Saw set. That was psychologically horrifying for the victims. But it was still
oh
horror because they realized how bad of a situation they were really in, and it was
okay.
all a game.
Okay, with that, I have no idea on how many Saw films there are out
I
there,
think there's 10.
but I can tell you that to this point, I have watched Saw 1, 2, and 3.
And the big trilogy is usually always like the toppest of tiers. I want to
And
say, Chapel, and you might know the answer,
Hmm.
is after the third one when what is her name? Was her name Amanda? The pig. The killer known as the pig.
Yeah, I think that's when she took
That
over.
was like the end of her reign after the third movie.
Something like that. Yeah.
no, it was after the second.
Oh, was it after the second?
Yeah,
Okay.
because you've got Saw 1 is John Kramer, and John Kramer continues on sort of into Saw 2, but Amanda, aka the pig, takes over into and basically makes it. She's supposed to be taking over John's work, but she disappoints John because none of her games are winnable. All the victims die.
Right. Like,
And that's
she
where the police officer takes over at the end of 2 and carries on into 3.
okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, and then you want to also talk other like types of horror. I mean, we also got I'd say Rob Zombie definitely spiked the true animalistic horror aspect of life. Like, I mean, you got House the big trilogy of his, House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, and then Three from Hell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That whole family.
those are great. I like those films. I also love the first reboot, not the second that he did of Halloween,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
because he broadened the spectrum of what Michael Myers is capable of doing in that film.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, the second one that he did, it kind of fell off. It was not. It was lacking, and left me wanting more blood, guts, and gore.
Right. No, we also got classic killers like, if anyone remembers, the Candyman.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
Candyman. That was a cool concept behind that as well. a being that if you thought was real ended up becoming real.
Oh
And
no, something like
just
that.
a horrifying man that did god awful things.
Yeah, it's something like that. I will relive some of my childhood trauma by talking about this film, and it's not in the top tier of horror, but it is a horror film nonetheless. It is Dr. Giggles.
Yeah, I
I
remember
never
you
saw
telling me
that
about.
one.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about Dr. Giggles way back in the day.
Dr. Giggles was a complete fucked up film. Like the guy wanting to be a dog. The premise behind it is the killer is a guy. He wanted to be a doctor and he wanted to save people's lives, but he never. I don't know if he. I can't remember all the films, so I'm just paraphrasing here. And I don't think he got a medical license, but he started performing surgeries on people to try to save their life. And instead of being successful surgeries, he started butchering people. And his whole thing, the whole thing behind the movie, they called him Dr. Giggles, is because he always fucking laughed the whole time he was doing something. Like he had an eerie, creepy laugh that you always heard, and that sent people into panic.
Next time you're bleeding to death, just call Dr. Zed.
Yep. Yeah,
Chaplin, you appreciate that one?
I do.
Because it's a real med school degree.
But yeah, that movie, whenever I watched that as a kid, that fucked me up big time.
See, when I grew up watching two sets of movies. It was Nightmare on Elm Street and Alien, the Alien series. Those were like the two. And I know Alien isn't necessarily like an actual true horror film, but I suppose in an argumentative state, for it being a sci-fi matter, sci-fi version, it would be pretty horrifying. I mean,
Well, I mean
because
that
xenomorph
technically
comes bursting out of your friend's chest cavity while you're having dinner.
Oh,
Like,
that's the thing is you're right. It's not exactly a true horror film, but it is a sci-fi horror film.
yeah.
I mean,
But
watching that and then all of a sudden, you see a face hugger grab onto someone's face, and then like minutes, hours later, you see an alien come bursting through their chest and screeching like a newborn child.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's a sci-fi horror. I'll classify it as that
yeah, absolutely.
because it is without a doubt science fiction, and it does star one of the leading ladies, so to speak, in horror films, and that's Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
Right. Now, a little backtracking back to Nightmare on Elm Street for a split second here. Does anyone know how Wes Craven actually got the ideas for Nightmare on Elm Street?
I think it had to do with something that not entirely sure. I've heard something about it, and I've probably forgotten it more times over than I can remember. But I believe it had something to do with a real life event that inspired that character.
Okay. Well, give me just a second here, because I actually have something in my possession that I've had since I was a kid that actually talks about it a little bit. So Wes Craven, when he thought about this, it was actually quite the interesting aspect on it. So Freddy Krueger, that name is actually very impactful to a man like Wes Craven. Reason being, Wes Craven's high school bully was named Frederick Krueger.
So
So
the character is
this guy,
inspired from a high school bully.
it's inspired from a high school bully, and I'm trying to find the passage here, or the sentence here, but I want to say that the Nightmare on Elm Street was actually something Wes Craven did cook up in his dreams.
That is just fucking creepy.
Yeah. Like,
you're a horror film master, because not only did he create Nightmare on Elm Street, but he also created the Scream franchise. And I know for certain that he directed at least the first 2 films, because I know he passed away somewhere during that time.
right. Yeah.
So,
Like, and just it's interesting to know that due to the fact of, I mean, you got all of these movies that all these guys make, and you just sit there and question, like, how do these people come up with these ideas? And yeah, some of them do just cook it up in their own dreams. Like, this is stuff that not only is it actual nightmare fuel, but then you add a dash of realism to it. You got a renowned man who made a horror film set based around the name of his own childhood trauma, and he sat there through it.
I mean, that's very interesting, and I'm gonna toss in another little interesting tidbit here, and that goes into the movie, which has been remade, rebooted, redid this, re that, everything else. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The good old Leatherface family.
Do you know where that movie gets everything from?
Some horror gore family in Texas.
That film is actually based off. When I say based, it is not word for word, identity for identity, 100%, factual to fiction.
Oh, of course.
But it is based off the life of a real life serial killer named Ed Gein. And Ed Gein did abduct people. He did peel their skin off their bodies and turn that shit into furniture and fashion accessories.
Yeah.
He had a fucking wallet made out of, I want to say, nipples.
I don't know. I know that
Got away from Chapel.
I know that Ed Gein started a ghost story in his own town. So kids would be coming home from school and they would see a woman dancing out in his front yard and just singing loudly and dancing. It wasn't a woman. It was Ed Gein wearing a woman's skin.
Duh.
Hey, Buffalo Bill, who did you kill?
So is the inspiration to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And possibly, impossible, since you mentioned it, Buffalo Bill as well.
Oh, absolutely more than likely, because we all know Buffalo Bill is just a character idea, but it had to come from somewhere.
And I mean, there's other horror films that are based off of real life events. I'm just going to name this next one. I'm not really interested in talking about it too much. The Amityville Horror.
Yeah.
Yep, of course, absolutely. Amityville has always had a name for itself.
So I mean, that was based off of real life event. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was based off
an
a
Ed
real
Gein
life.
script.
Yeah, but with you talking about Wes Craven and Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare on Elm Street was also another little traumatic event for me. And it wasn't so much as the blood, guts, and gore in the film. It was the little childhood nursery rhyme song that they were singing about the guy. That creeped me the fuck out as a kid.
Yeah.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. And it was always little girls in white dresses.
Yeah,
Jump roping.
little white,
skipping along.
little girls in white dresses with pigtails and jump rope.
Yep. The oldest, most classic look of, in my personal opinion, of something that really just fuels that nightmare. Like, and they did it so many times. Like, they even did it in the movie where you noticed it was daytime and everyone was awake and Freddy wasn't around. But when they were driving up to school, and they made it very subtle, like almost as if it didn't matter. But you noticed at the elementary school there were 3 little girls in white dresses quietly singing 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
And with that, also, the one thing with me with the Nightmare on Elm Street films, I always loved the fact that Freddy always managed to shred clothing at the right times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what else are you gonna do as a killer who is a nightmare demon, basically, who was in the films, was a real person who was, the backstory that I got off the films was Freddy was a real person in that film series who was abducting children, raping, abusing, and fucking brutally murdering them.
Yep.
Parents took their vengeance.
He was a sociopath.
That was only in the remake that he was abusing and raping them. He was just a child
abusing
murderer.
and raping them.
He was
but in the original set, he was just a murderer.
Yeah, he was just a child murderer in the original one.
Well, I was encompassing it all.
Okay.
No need to get the tits up in an uproar.
Oh no, the thing was
a lot of away, Chapel.
A lot of classic Freddy fans were really pissed off that they just added that in. It seemed like it was enough for him to be a murderer.
Well,
no, and I 100% agree, because when you look at the very final tidbit to the original set, Freddy did have a daughter.
Right.
And it wasn't through rape, it wasn't through any of that. He was a man who had a wife and child, but he had a dark side to him.
He had the American dream: a home, a white picket fence, wife, child.
Yep.
He had it all.
He was mentally
but there was apparently something that was fucked up in his brain that's like, you know what? That kid looks great to be on a skewer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with the cultist fans of Nightmare on Elm Street. They didn't have to add the rape and everything else in there. Freddy was already just as fucked up as he could be. He didn't need any more. He didn't need more added to him.
Right. Sometimes it's just horrifying enough to know.
The abduction and murder was more than enough, because you're in the original films, they didn't know who the fuck was taking their kids. they didn't know who was murdering their kids
Right.
until something came forth, and then all the townspeople, instead of trying to get him in prison, they took it on themselves to murder the murderer.
Yeah, because they didn't want that was the realistic mentality of people from that era. Like that yes, they believed in the justice system and their law enforcement, but even the law enforcement, like, I think it also ties into the factor
prison
it's
is
just
too
as fucked
cushy.
up. Prison's too good for a monster like that, and I think it made it even worse, honestly, that he didn't molest or rape children. Like, that wasn't even his goal. It wasn't some sick sexual obsession. It was just a lust for the kill.
For blood and fucking screams.
Yeah. Like, and that honestly gives a whole different horrific, nightmarish feel to a person. Like, what is wrong with this guy? Like, it's already fucked up to think that, he could be molesting them. But proof that he didn't? What the hell? He could have just went out and killed the parents instead. He could have killed homeless people. He could have just been your average serial killer. But no, he had a specific type.
Yep.
And it had to be that type. And if it wasn't good enough for him.
If you can't tell, Freddy Krueger happens to be one of my favorite horror characters from those type of films.
Now, however, I do say we have sparked enough of Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
I would like to hear Chapel.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your favorite franchise. It's Hellraiser, isn't it?
Yeah, I love Hellraiser.
Take some throne.
Chapel's always loved Hellraiser.
Look, if I'm gonna watch something and it be fucked up and about murder and stuff, I'm at least gonna have it, be, well, on a level of supernatural bullshit. Because
the puzzle of lament.
Yeah, well, the mundane bullshit just doesn't do it for me. I don't understand why people don't start grabbing guns and blowing people's fucking heads off. I mean, yeah, Jason can take a couple shotgun shells to the chest. How about fucking rocket launcher, motherfucker?
See, that's the problem with Jason, though. The first two films is not the big hulking brute with a hockey mask.
No,
that is actually true.
It's the frail old fragile woman that was his mother.
Well, no, that's the
first
movie.
In the first one, yes. In the second one, Jason Voorhees, or the embodiment of Jason Voorhees, wasn't even known as Jason. It was just some random fucking sociopathic hillbilly with a fucking flour sack over his fucking head.
Yeah.
And he just had a lust for murder.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't until after the third one.
Sorry for sidetracking that one. So let's get back to Hellraiser and what is he classified as? I mean, I know from a video game standpoint they call him the Cenobite.
Yeah.
So
and that is what they were called.
Yeah. So he's
he's a Cenobite.
Yeah, he's the lead Cenobite.
Okay.
And all of his underlings are Cenobites. They are classified as demons.
Okay, so they're demons. So Pinhead is the lead Cenobite demon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So
that makes it a little bit easier on me on that one.
Yeah. I can't remember if it's the fifth or the sixth film, but one of those two goes deep into like the lore of where the lament configuration comes from, how it was designed, who made it, like the bloodline that it's attached to, and how those people are like constantly fighting to keep it from being discovered and worked in. And at some point in that movie, like there's a princess of hell, and she leaves hell, comes to Earth, and spends like 400 or 500 years, like just kind of wandering around before she meets back up with Pinhead and the Cenobites. But they refer to her as the Princess of Hell, and they're like, things have changed since you've been gone.
Yeah. Now, just a thought, because I'm not too in depth with Hellraiser. I would say that one was my childhood trauma. I had a hard time with that one. I remember looking at all the different Cenobites that there were.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that they were technically actually classified as demons, right?
Yes.
So, in that aspect, would they be similar to anything like the Deadly Sins?
No. No, they're not.
I was curious because I remembered one of them was definitely on like the fatter side, and
Oh yeah.
and that there was like each one had their own special nick to them.
Right, but the thing is they're all kind of tied into this same sin, which is the sin of gluttony, or not even gluttony, but just excess.
Okay.
Like
Gotcha.
so the people that go looking for the lament configuration are people who are searching for, oh, how would you say it? They've had all the excesses there are on the planet, so they're looking for something new, something they haven't felt before. So the mixture of pain comes with pleasure, and that's where you get the Cenobites. Because a lot of the time, when you open the lament configuration, you just get turned into a Cenobite instead of just being outright murdered.
Right.
I sort of say, don't they thrive off of like pain equals pleasure kind of shit?
Yeah, they do. And to kind of help understand from that, so the way it would work is a handful of them are picked to become new Cenobites, and everything after that, if you're not chosen, you're just killed. That's all it is. You're murdered. That's what happened in the first movie to the uncle. He was just murdered because they didn't want another Cenobite. And the timeline through the different dimensions works totally different. So to help you kind of understand just how fucked up the timeline is, Pinhead the Cenobite is a World War I veteran. He finds the lament configuration and gets turned into Pinhead. After that, okay, just so we're clear, after that is when the Princess of Hell comes out of hell in the 1400s to help design the lament configuration. So their dimension
does fucking ass backwards.
Yeah, their dimension does not fuck with our timeline whatsoever. And that's the thing. I have this theory about actual angels and demons, which is they don't exist the way we do. They exist outside of space and time. So they can literally be 3, 4, 5, 600 places all at the same time, existing in the same in the same time, but in separate places.
See, that's completely fucked up. The Princess of Hell comes out of hell in the 1400s, creating the lament configuration.
That's only after Pinhead becomes the first leading Cenobite.
Yeah.
And the first leading Cenobite is a World War I veteran.
Yeah.
So that took place. What?
His thing takes place between World War I and World War II. So literally between 35 and 1940. Because he's an Englishman.
Right. So that's like, that's over 500 years.
Yeah.
So this bitch, after 500 years, goes back in time.
No, because the thing is the lament configure. Think of it like this. Think of our timeline being separate from their dimension, right? You're looking at it as a timeline. You're looking at it like a ribbon, okay? So in the ribbon, you can see images and places and things you want to do. So you're just outside. You go, oh, okay. Well, we're going to do this here, and you're just pointing at one end of the timeline, say up to the right. And you go, oh, okay, I'm going to push myself in here. I'm going to do this little thing, and then I'm going to pull back, and then I'm going to go back to the beginning, to the left, and just put myself in here, and I'm just going to stay here and just follow the stream for a little while. Do you see what I'm saying?
As everything else has already been taken in place.
Yeah.
And has already happened, happening, and is going to happen.
Yeah. Which you already know, all of that.
That's the reason why
mindfuck.
That's the reason why these films are fucked up.
Yeah.
That's also part of the reason why I like them so much.
You know, there was one specific scene, and I don't know which movie it's from. Chapel, you would probably know.
Mm-hmm.
And it was from Hellraiser that for some reason still is like permanently burned into my fucking brain. And it just makes me cringe.
Okay.
The mattress.
The mattress? Which one?
The mattress, when the guy is sitting there, shirtless, and it was either a razor blade or a hook, and he was digging it through himself, creating a pool of blood in this mattress, and it was like the spawn point for the fucking Cenobites.
Oh, okay. So what you're thinking of happened in the second movie. It wasn't the spawn point for the Cenobites, because in the Hellraiser movies, with the exception of everything after 3, okay, so 3 and beyond, don't think about that. But in the first 2, Hellraiser movies, there were not one set of villains, but 2 sets of villains in both movies. There are the Cenobite villains, and then there are the human villains. Now, in the second movie, the human villain, who is a doctor who is in charge of a psychiatric ward, has this psychiatric patient digging into his own skin with a hook because this woman from the first movie had been killed and her remains were still inside the mattress, and he could use that blood to summon her back. Because the Cenobites left her soul on the material plane.
Yeah, that just that scene is always burned into my fucking skull, and it just horrifies me. I genuinely can't look at an old school mattress. I can't. Every time I see one, I think of that, and I'm like, ugh.
At least he doesn't have the man who decides to make out with a lawnmower.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Oh, God. Fucking. Now, I also thought, and I could be wrong, like I said, never really fully watched them. Have such a hard time forcing myself to do so. I could have swore there was one point in time where Pinhead was actually the good guy.
Yeah, towards the end of the second movie, he switches sides and joins up with the good mortals because the psychiatric or the head of the psychiatric ward becomes a Cenobite, and he's like fighting Pinhead for the leadership of the group.
Okay. Yeah, because I do
And
remember
Pinhead don't want to
like,
give up that control.
I remember Pinhead turning around and you see his arms raise up and all these chains come launching out of fucking thin air
Yeah, actually,
with hooks on them.
it's more of I think the Doctor had intentions of trying to invade the mortal world without cause, and there was like a bunch of laws and stuff in place to keep Cenobites from doing stuff like that.
Isn't that like also the whole point of the lament?
Yeah, it is.
Like that's one of the rules of the only allowed access. He who opens the puzzle opens the world, which gives allowance to the Cenobites to step through.
I think it's something like that, but I think it's more of the opening of the lament configuration summons them. So it's like if you figure out the lament configuration, you choose to summon these demons to hurt you.
Yeah. That's to me, that and what you were just talking about, Ken, with the chains. That's my two favorite things about the whole fucking series.
Nah,
The
I
chains
will
of
give you that.
The chains of torment and the lament configuration.
Yeah. My thing is, okay, so I've seen the newest one, the one that they put on Hulu recently. I saw it and it's garbage. It's not worth my time. I want my money back that I didn't spend on the movie to watch, and I want the time back that I spent watching it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I
Well,
feel you there. I was
things
that
you
way.
gave that one, because I was gonna waste my time and actually watch that one, but with that stellar review, I'll just steer clear of it.
Yeah,
I mean, that being said,
that's just like with all the other Freddy Krueger movies for me. Like, I know they made some, but whenever you actually go to a store and you buy like the complete sets, they're still not put into that set. Like, they were never put into it. They were like, nope,
With
this is
the
not.
Nightmare on Elm Street films, I kind of fell off after a certain amount because they just it's like they didn't really make any fucking sense whatsoever.
I
think Dream Warriors was one of them.
Actually, Dream Warriors, which was the third or fourth one. No, it was the third one. Dream Warriors was really good if you actually sat down and watched it.
I've sat down and watched it. I just couldn't I can't grasp it. That's my problem with Dream Warriors.
I have the original collector's Platinum Edition. It's Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's Revenge, Dream Warriors, Dream Master, Dream Child, and Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare.
Yeah.
Then it goes into the next one, which I did not. I think they fucked it up after that, which was Wes Craven's New Nightmare, where Freddy Krueger wasn't actually Freddy Krueger. He was it was some sort of nightmare bug that took the shape of Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street just because I think the poor actor, man, they made his face look like a scrotum the entire time, and it just.
Yeah, I never watched that one after, like I said, after New Nightmare, which came out in. Give me just a second. It'll tell me as soon as I look at the.
I happen to like New Nightmare. Thank you very much.
Look, and that's fine. It's still a Wes Craven classic.
Well, that's the thing. It's a Wes Craven film.
Yeah.
Any of the others that were not Wes Craven still stamping approval? No.
No, and I understand that 100%. And New Nightmare came out after Scream and Scream 2. So
Right.
like this was like it was like an add-on, but at the same time a little tidbit of like the Freddy is no more. Like Freddy genuinely wasn't alive anymore. He died. After his bout with Jason Voorhees,
Yeah.
they ended up stuck in hell together, and they were never supposed to come back.
Okay, I'm going to have to correct you here. New Nightmare came out 2 years before the first Scream movie.
Did it?
Yeah.
Because on here, on this, it actually says, unless this set came out, my set could have come out after, which is, you know.
Yeah,
not-
Wes
not
Craven's New
surprising.
Nightmare came out in 1994, and I know Scream came out in
Yes.
96.
Oh, okay. Well, then I am wrong. Then it's just that they just put flavor text on the back of
Well,
the.
You know
See,
what? I
that's
can't
the
blame
thi-
you for being misinformed. Fuck them people in their fucking the box set bullshit. They shouldn't have put that in there.
No,
that's
they
the thing.
shouldn't.
That's the thing with me though. Where I like New Nightmare, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, is it still stars two of the original cast members,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
and
suppose.
that is Heather Langenkamp and Robert Englund, or I might be butchering his
England, yeah,
last name.
Robert England. But you know, John
Wait,
Saxon's
Robert
in there.
Englund was actually.
He was in New Nightmare.
No.
Yeah, yeah, he was.
Was he really?
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing.
Because the idea with New
no, yeah.
Nightmare was that Freddy had become such a popular icon that he was being thought of enough to like literally become an entity on his own. And
Yeah,
Maybe I have to watch it again. I only honestly watched the movie once, and then I never watched it again because
give
I
it
didn't
another
like it.
shot.
yeah,
Okay, I'll give it another shot.
let's see. What was I going to say?
But yes, with what you were talking about with after Dream Warriors, all those films after Dream Warriors, especially Dream Child, I just couldn't get into them.
So after that particular point, yes, it kind of skewed the original Nightmare fuel a little, altered it away, but it was also because so the whole point that it started becoming is Freddy he had figured out that his old stuff wouldn't keep working. He had to adapt to become the individual's nightmare.
Yeah.
One person was afraid of dolls, so he turned himself into a little doll. One person was an ex-drug addict, so they were naturally afraid of getting back into drugs, so Freddy's gauntlets would turn into syringes, and he'd be sitting there torturing them about it. One was about food. She didn't want to eat. She didn't want to be around her mother, so Freddy turned into the waiter, and everything became food.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. See,
He was embodying everyone's nightmare to keep them afraid, to make sure that they knew that their fears were him and him alone.
Yeah.
And like with the Dream Child, that one was based around the factor of the infant inside of her slept, and she was a victim of Freddy Krueger, and she tried to suppress it, but she started growing fear. Psychologically, back in her subconscious, she would still be thinking about Freddy Krueger. So thanks to the child inside of her, every time it was back in its sleep stasis, it gave Freddy a reason.
Yeah.
Because it was only a part of her. Now, if that child would not have been inside of her, Freddy would not have had access. He would not have found a way unless she actively thought about him before she fell asleep.
Right. Right.
Okay, I might have to, I might have to give those films another go and see if I can't grasp the story a little bit better.
I tell you what, I'll watch New Nightmare again. You rewatch Dream Warriors at least. To be able to see the alteration of how Freddy actually evolved himself to stay alive.
Now, with that, also, we talked about the big four and, the subcategories where things come in. Another one off of a sort of slight variation to Chappell's favorite Hellraiser was Wishmaster.
I heard that one, but I never saw that one.
The first one was pretty good. After that, it got real campy real fast.
It's a B-rated film. Like, this is... I don't even know if any of the actors were originally famous when they started in the films. And Chappell's right. The first one is really good. After that, they start getting really, really cheesy and campy. And it's just like, I don't know about this anymore. But The Wishmaster, the first one, was a really good film. And It has something in it, just like the Lament configuration. It was a gem that allowed the evil djinn into the world to grant wishes that were ultimately your nightmare and death.
You know what? I do want to add one more set of something to this particular episode.
Please tell me it's what I'm thinking about. Oh, damn it.
It's not a movie. But it is something classy, cheesy, but still shows kind of that horror-ish aspect. Good old Tales from the Crypt.
Ah, yes. Tales from the Crypt. Not only did it have an HBO special, it had its own cartoon for a little while.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to be sad and hurt that you didn't mention what I was thinking of.
Well, you are. Now you're talking about it. What is it?
Yeah.
Launch it.
But Tales of the Crypt was a good one to add in there. Okay, what I'm going to add in... I have to stress that not all of these films make it into this list. But I know for certain at least the first 2 to 3 should.
Oh, I'm interested.
And that would be Leprechaun.
You know what? I thought about that. I genuinely did. I thought about saying Leprechaun. It's been on my mind.
Yeah.
I will give you that. That one is also a classic. True, one of the other true classics.
You know this one always gave me the creeps, and that was the Phantasm movies. Because you could kill the tall man.
Oh, fuck you, Chappell. Fuck you.
You could kill the tall man, and he was never really dead. He just came back. He just showed the fuck back up, and he was like, "Hey, psych, motherfucker."
The fucking Phantasm movies, and plus the fucking little creepy little shits in the robes.
Yeah. And the silver ball with the hooks and the drill.
Yeah, fuck you. I blocked that shit out in my childhood. Fuck you.
So we got all of this wonderful array of horror.
Yeah.
Fuck, I feel like there was one other one I was gonna mention too. You said Phantasm, Leprechaun, Tales from the Crypt, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Scream, Saw. Fuck! I just had it too. What the hell was it?
Oh, fucking hell.
Oh! John Carpenter.
Yeah.
John Carpenter and his set of movies. Not all of them.
I don't remember.
But he did a few that were definitely horror based.
I don't remember too many John Carpenter films that were horror based.
You remember Halloween, don't you?
Huh?
That was John Carpenter.
Yeah. You remember Halloween, don't you?
Yeah.
That was John Carpenter.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of other films.
Okay. How about The Thing?
The Thing.
Yeah, The Thing.
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
I'm sorry.
So we got...
What?
Jesus. So we got things like John Carpenter's Masters of Horror. There was Vampires, John Carpenter's Vampires. Definitely supernatural.
Yep. They live.
I see there I go that's where my mind was going to with John Carpenter's, and it was John Carpenter's Vampires. And I wouldn't classify that as so much of a cult classic horror film. It was comedic as fuck though.
Yeah, but I mean, then you also got movies like Village of the Damned, In the Mouth of Madness, Body Bags. I suppose even The Prince of Darkness would technically count. Made in 1987. Christine, if you remember that.
Yeah.
See, you mentioned Prince of Darkness, and then my brain went to something else, and I don't want to talk about those films.
Poor kid. We're reliving his childhood traumas. All in the spirits of October and Halloween.
Yep.
Because the first film fucked me up royally as well. Chapel knows it.
Which one?
And
I'm gonna make you say it.
Say it.
All I've got to mention is Bruce Campbell.
That doesn't help me. Say it. Say it. Say it. Say it. Say it. Say it.
The Evil Dead series.
Evil Dead!
I love the Evil Dead series.
Evil Dead was amazing.
Evil Dead was amazing. Agreed.
You know what? I think I have some of the original series somewhere in my house. I don't know where, but...
All right. Well, I believe that's just about time. And thank you all for listening. Guys, thank you for coming and having this wonderful conversation with me. And I hope everyone listening comes back for our part 2 of our Halloween Spookathon. Whatever I called it at the beginning.
Tune in to next week's part 2 of our Halloween spectacular,
whatever we want to call it,
series.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. October Scare-a-thon. That's it. October Scare-a-thon. We're going with that.
Scare-a-thon. And if you're lucky, you won't see Chapel naked in your mirror.
Just say my name 3 times and do like a little twirl in the mirror, and I'll pop up.
And hit him with the bat.
All right, y'all have a good day.
Peace.
Later.